Hello, everybody. Welcome to Today in Brevard Sports. I'm Brian McCallum from Florida Today. Florida Today's own Mike Cherry. We cover high school sports and more for Florida Today. We're here on television. Here, many of you probably getting your first look at Heritage High School and the Panthers. Mike, Panthers a new name for us. I'm going to have to put that in my memory bank. I'm going to slip up that on that, I'm sure. Apologize for that in advance. We have several stories to bring you today. In addition to the Heritage High Opener, the first ever high school football game here at Heritage this weekend, Friday night, they'll be playing Poinciana. We have some surf video from last week. We told you about the National Kidney Foundation Surf Festival. We also have some video and some discussion between me and Mike about some of the other games. A lot of high school games this weekend. And then, of course, Peter Kerasotis will be here to talk about what we learned from this past weekend of college football. Mike, you had it in our preseason football section. Kind of a big statement from Mike Davis, but he knows his football. He says their goal this year is a bowl game. Is that trying to get his guys fired up, or is there a realistic chance for this team to win 5 games?
It's kind of hard to know because there's no precedent on this. They're starting a full varsity schedule, their first year of existence, but they're playing against smaller teams. Teams that after about 2 years, when they finally get in district play, they'll never play again. Teams like Holy Trinity, teams like Merritt Island Christian, Florida Air. And you need to win 5. You need to win half your games. Can they do it? I don't know. It's just sophomores and freshmen. There's going to be a lot of mistakes. There's going to be a lot of illegal procedure penalties. There's going to be a lot of exchange fumbles. It's just the way that it's going to be this year for them. But they think there's a lot of talent, and there's a lot of size, particularly on the offensive line. There's kids going 270, 260, and presumably these are 15 and 16-year-olds. This is farm country out here, and who knows what they're growing, but it's kind of, I think they think this could be a pretty good team right off the bat, at least against the kind of schedule they're playing.
What do you think about that theory of the varsity schedule? You've written about that also. Vieira took one approach. I don't know what Space Coast did years ago. New school coming in and playing, which officially it's a varsity schedule, but as you said, Poinciana, Merritt Island Christian, Florida Air will be interesting. Do you like that theory of coming in and getting right into it?
I think why not? Why not get people used to playing varsity games and big games on Friday? And again, they're an independent, so there isn't going to be any kind of district games. But I think they feel like this will prepare the program quicker instead of having JV games. Maybe Vieira stunted its growth a little by not playing its first year playing against many teams of varsity games. Who knows? It's easy to look back and play, play quarterback on a, in a newspaper and stuff. It didn't work necessarily for Vieira, although obviously they started off this year with a win. Why not what Heritage is doing? I think they thought this out pretty well. I think the administration is very pro-athletic. And I think even a lot of them learned from their existence at Bayside with, athletic director Greg McGrew, John Tuttle, both came from Bayside, which 10 years ago opened and struggled for a while before it finally got on its feet. So why not try this approach? I think the scheduling is a good idea. I'm not sure they'll be ready when they get into district play, but that's 2 years from now. And right now, I think they can probably compete with some of the smaller schools. They will have the advantage of numbers over the disadvantage of lack of experience.
Right, 920-ish students, maybe around 930. It's going to be interesting looking down the road a little bit. They do play Florida Air. And on our forum especially, a lot of fans talk about, how does Florida Air compare to some of the public schools that won't play them? And obviously Heritage is not Palm Bay or Bayside, but say those two teams meet and they also play Merritt Island Christian. Everybody always says comparative scores is not really anything you can rely on, but do we learn anything when a Heritage plays a Florida Air this year?
It's the only gauge we have against, because those two teams aren't, Florida Air and Merritt Island Christian are not playing each other. I think we learn a little bit. We have to put in perspective what Heritage is. It isn't going to be the Heritage of 4 or 5 years from now. These are young kids who are probably going to be mistake prone no matter how many times they drill. Run the same plays in practice and all that. There's a difference on Friday nights. But it will be interesting to see because we don't get many matchups. I think Cocoa Beach and MCC is the only public versus private regular season meeting, I think, this year. So outside of Heritage. So, yeah, it's always interesting to see.
And if you look behind me, you can see some of those big bodies. The question is, will they do anything this week that merits Play of the Week consideration? Well, we have had our first week of Play of the Week, And we've got our results. We had voting through Wednesday. We encourage you to go to floridatoday.com each week, starting at about 5 o'clock p.m. on Sunday. Here are our top 5 plays this week as you voted them.
Tyree Harvey picked off Jeff Bolognese's pass and darted 27 yards to become the second inhabitant of Touchdown City.
With this beautiful pass by number 11, Richard Burrows, just over the Raiders' number 6, Mark Anthony Church, to the Bears' number 6, Jomo Morgan, for this 50-yard touchdown.
Cocoa Beach's Black returned a fumble 45 yards for a touchdown. The extra point was good, and the Minutemen were back in the game.
Space Coast grabbed the early momentum when Jake Swift blocked a Titusville punt on 4th and 27.
MCC and Cocoa Beach would trade touchdowns until MCC's Erdman scored a 90-yard touchdown run, which he followed up with a 1-yard touchdown run to seal the victory for MCC Hustlers.
Well, congratulations to Mike Erdman and Melbourne Central Catholic. Mike, you've seen the bumper stickers, I'm NRA, or I'm this, or I'm that, and I vote. Well, MCC fans vote. So we want to encourage everybody to vote. I don't know what, we talked about this in the office. Cocoa Beach question marks this year with the defense. That's the quarterback from MCC outrunning the entire Cocoa Beach defense. Although I know that R.G. Black got him back, we watched Mike Erdman try to catch him on a fumble return, I believe. So turnabout's fair play there. If you have video from your team playing out of town, maybe we weren't at the game, you can email entries at brevard-news-video@floridatoday.com and contact us, and we'll get you information about how to enter your video so that we don't miss anybody for the Play of the Week contest. Well, there was a contest this past weekend at Cocoa Beach and at Shepherd Park. Mike Cherry did well in the tandem with Annette Fanuccello. The tandem surfing, we'll have video of that, and we have just an overall video report from the National Kidney Foundation surf competition.
For the National Kidney Foundation, and it's really good stuff down there.
We met on the beach. I was lifting some women, and she came up and asked me what it was, and I said, it's tandem surfing. You want to try it? And
I'd
10
never
minutes,
seen it before.
10 minutes later, she was in a lift out in the water. She was great. And so I made her fall in love with me, and then we got married. We're partners for the Masters, and I have another partner for the Open Division. This time we had decent waves, and we really trying to get some of the local guys to step up, because there's lots of girls here coming up wanting to learn to tandem. We just need some of the local surfers to come up and we'll show them how to make it easy.
Tandem is getting bigger and bigger.
Some good surfing competition. Let's keep it on surfing right now, and let's go to Bob Freeman's surf report. Find out about this weekend.
Thanks a lot. Looks like another fun weekend of surf coming up. I believe this is maybe 5 weekends in a row that we've been blessed with some fun surf, and especially after following some small surf that we've had this week. Here's what I see going on. Saturday, it looks like a little bit of a northeast swell creeping through. Should be registering around 3 feet at 9 seconds on the buoys. What that means to us is thigh high surf in the Cocoa Beach area, waist high surf in the satellite to Melbourne Beach areas, and I'm expecting a little southwest early breeze should give us some very clean conditions. Sunday looks like a repeat. Surf could be a little bit bigger, should hover in the thigh to waist high range, still a little northeast swell direction. The winds, I believe, will start coming around a little more from the north, and it should be a little northwest, slight offshore, making semi-clean conditions on Sunday morning. And I believe the best times to get out for both days on the weekend will be in the morning. Looks like we'll have an early morning low tide on both days. Looks like we'll have some cleaner offshore breezes on both days. So grab your favorite board, find your favorite surf spot, get out there and have some fun. I know I'll be out there. I'll be looking for you. This is Bob Freeman for Florida Today.
Thanks, Bob. We appreciate it every week. And for those of you who think Bob looks 25, yes, he's young looking, but he had a good weekend at the surf competition. He won the Legends event, 55 and over, and the longboard event for 40 and over. So congratulations, Bob. Still getting it done on the waves. Well, there were some teams getting it done this weekend. Florida was getting it done, and a close one in Tallahassee. Peter Kerasotis is going to join us now and talk about what we may have learned from this past weekend's college football competition.
Hi, this is Peter Kerasotis. Welcome back to another edition of My Take on Your Sports. We're going to be talking about what's been in the news, and that is college football with the NFL coming up this weekend. But so much college football to talk about, so let's focus on that. And let's focus and start at the top, which is that great Miami-Florida State game from this past Monday night. 38-34, Miami won it, went down to the final ticks, the final play. Review of the final play up there in Tallahassee, and Miami comes out on top 38-34. This, and lean a little closer, Florida Gator fans, this is how you start a college football season. Even beyond the fact that this was a great game and what ESPN is deeming an instant classic, and I don't think anybody's going to argue with that, it also tells us a lot about Florida State Miami, as much as a game one can tell us. Yes, were there some little sloppiness here and there? Was it a high-scoring game? Did the coaches look like they need a little bit of polishing up on their time management and clock management and those types of things? Of course. It's a season-opening game. College football does not have preseason or exhibition games, so we can expect that. But what we can see from this game is that those two programs, what we keep wondering about is when and if are they going to get back to where they once were. And I think that this game shows us that if they're not back to where they once were, they're well on their way back. Saw a lot of athleticism on that field, a lot of playmakers, a lot of just a good, tough football game. And then, of course, it always begins with quarterbacks. You look at Florida State with Christian Ponder, the real deal, a career-high 294 passing yards. You look at Ja'Cory Harris, the sophomore from Miami, a lot of question marks about him in a big game like this. 386 passing yards. He was going toe-to-toe with Christian Ponder. So a lot about this game, if you're a Florida State Seminole fan or a Miami Hurricane fan, a lot to be excited about. Even if you're an FSU fan and your team lost, you've got to believe that the Seminoles are back on the right track. And from Miami's perspective, Randy Shannon, the head coach down there, his first 2 years, a 12-13 record, lost 11 of 13 games against ranked teams. Recruits well, a great coach Sunday through Friday. Can he make it happen on Saturday? I think with that game, we're seeing that he can make it happen on Saturday. Very exciting game if you're a fan of college football, and especially an exciting game if you're a fan of either one of those two teams. It's good to see them back on track. Now let's move over to the Florida Gators, and I kind of kid and goad them a little bit, but there is a message behind that. You know, they opened their season against Charleston Southern, and they win a gazillion points to 3. I mean, who knows the final score? Just ridiculous. And then next week, they have a really tough opponent. They play Troy. And, you know, I hear all the arguments about why they can't play a home and away series against an out-of-conference team. I don't buy it. There's so many teams that open against tough opponents. Georgia opened against Oklahoma State. Boise State and Oregon played each other. Alabama, Virginia Tech. This Saturday, Ohio State is playing Southern Cal. So you can play out-of-conference opponents, and you can do a home and away series. What do we learn from the Florida Gators from this game? Really nothing. I mean, what does a 60 bazillion to 3 game tell you? Really nothing, and now they play Troy next week, and it's just kind of a joke that they have these cupcakes one after another to start the season. Let's move on now to UCF. They won 28-24 against Division I AA Samford. A lot of question marks still about the program. You know, new offense, new offensive coordinator, looked like the same old offense. Defense got burned for a couple of long touchdown passes. CUSA champions from 2 years ago, 4-8 last year. They still look like they have some work to do.
Well, let's take a look at this week's schedule. Mike, you're going to be at Astronaut and Bayside. You'll be live blogging from that. I'll be live blogging from here, Heritage's first home game. That's a big game. That's probably at least 2 of the top 3 teams in the county, assuming that Cocoa is the 3rd, who hasn't played yet. Do you have a favorite in that, or things to look for from Astronaut and Bayside?
Well, I like both. I like both those teams. Both have big front lines. Maybe I like Bayside a little bit just because I think a little bit more size and a quarterback that's a little more proven than what Astronaut has. But Astronaut's awful fast, and I really think that they're on their way to having a good year. I expect this to be a pretty close game. I don't think anybody's going to run away with this one. It's a long trip for Astronaut, yet again, same theory. I don't think that home field makes a big difference in high school football. I would just tend to lean their Bayside a little bit because of the experience factor. Richard Burrows, a quarterback, over Astronaut, who has playmakers, especially with Michael Smith, and also I think it's a really good game and a really interesting matchup, and one that'll probably tell a lot about both teams and maybe what they can do the rest of the season.
Bayside, quite a long trip. I'll be here at Heritage, which, if you don't know, I can almost hear Disney's 3 o'clock parade from right now, so we're quite west on this trip out here to Heritage. Cocoa and American Heritage, speaking of Heritage, I believe American Heritage lost its opener. Cocoa didn't play. Of course, here you have the argument about, is there an advantage or disadvantage to not playing, Cocoa not having played last week. What do you think?
Actually, I think that's Disneyland, too, not Disney World. So, yeah. I think this stage just doesn't really matter a great deal. I think Coco's had enough practice. They had a very good preseason game with Palm Bay, which I think, had them play against a really good, especially very good defense, and a school that can throw the ball a little bit. So I think they've seen enough. I don't think that not having played will hurt them much at all. Plus, if nothing else, they'll be a little fresher, nobody really banged up or anything like that. So, no, I don't think it'll hurt Cocoa at all.
We could find out if either Satellite or Viera goes to 2-0. That'll be interesting. We'll watch for that. We'll let you know what happens next week, or you can follow us in FloridaToday.com. We'll have video of all this, by the way. We have video of just tons of games. You can go to FloridaToday.com starting sometime Saturday and see video of all this. Of course, you can follow both Mike and me blogging live, and you can watch that Cocoa American Heritage game live on FloridaToday.com. That'll be live streamed. Poinciana Heritage. I don't know anything about Poinciana. I don't know anything about Heritage. Heritage wears blue. We'll see how they're going to do. I don't have a pick. I don't know that you have a pick. But I'll tell you what, if they're going to win 5 games, this wouldn't be a bad one to get started with, because Poinciana not a powerhouse. I know that.
If anybody has a pick on this game, I think they're just making it up anyway. So we'll go with Heritage because the home field advantage, which, of course, I just said a minute ago, doesn't really make any difference.
Check also with us for text alerts. Go to FloridaToday.com and check for text alerts. You can sign up there. And join us probably about 12:15 at the earliest, maybe on Friday night, a.m., Saturday morning, for our live post-game show. Mike and I will have analysis of all the night's results. That's it for this week's show. Today in Brevard Sports. Join us again next week. We plan to be at Bayside High, just down the road here. And watch now as all this week's games roll on the screen.